Hey, it's Doug with Backcountry Pilgrim, and I am out walking around in the rain. Not a lot of people out here. And there's a certain beauty that comes to the backcountry when everything is wet. Ditches turn into creeks, creeks turn into waterfalls. You see the land in a completely different way than when it's dry. And seeing all the little rivulets, hearing the drips, seeing trees through the fog, it can just be a really cool time, but you do want to make sure you have the right gear. If you have the right gear, it can be a very pleasant experience. Usually, if it's wet and rainy, it's also cooler, so you don't have as much of a problem with sweat and chafing. Let's talk for a minute about what the rain layer is supposed to do, because I think this is often misunderstood by people who are new to hiking dress layers. The outer layer or shell is not there to insulate you, and it's actually not there to keep you dry. Rather, what the outer layer is supposed to do is keep rainwater from getting through to your inside layers. When you're hiking, being wet is almost a foregone conclusion. If you're not getting rained on, you're going to be sweating, and either way, moisture is going to be next to your skin. That is why the base layer's role is to remove that liquid from your skin and move it out into your outer layers, keeping you at least more dry than you would be without it. Now, your skin being wet is not necessarily a problem. Because your body is always trying to equalize the temperature with the temperature outside, whatever is in contact with your skin is going to determine how your body reacts. If you have cold air or cold liquid up against your skin, your body is going to shed heat to try to equalize it out. And that isn't necessarily a problem as long as that air or that moisture isn't being replaced constantly by colder air or moisture. In fact, this is the principle of a wetsuit. A wetsuit doesn't keep you warm by keeping you dry. It keeps you warm by allowing your body to heat up a certain amount of moisture against your skin and then hold it there instead of letting it be replaced by seawater, which is cold, and your body is having to warm it up in a continual cycle that will eventually fail. So after the base layer, you have your insulation layer, and its job is not just to pile material on you until you are warm, rather it is to trap the air that your body is heating. So long as the air that your body is warming up is not constantly being replaced by cold air, you're going to be okay. Now, all clothing layer materials exist on a kind of spectrum between being able to keep you absolutely dry, absolutely warm, absolutely breathable, etc. And so any choice you make for your layers is going to require a compromise in one of those areas. For example, if you want to stay completely dry in a rainstorm, all you've got to do is put on a cheap rubber rain suit. No water is ever going to get through that, but also very little air is ever going to escape, and you could end up with overheating problems if you're trying to hike in something that doesn't breathe at all. However, when it comes to a layering system where you're going to be able to control your body temperature by changing layers out, having an outer rain layer that doesn't really perform very well because you're so worried about breathability could end up putting you in a much worse position. In serious rain conditions, your biggest concern needs to be water replacement and not whether or not you're sweating. It comes down to whether you want to risk hypothermia or a rash. One thing I think that is very important to keep in mind when it comes to breathability is that there is no material on the market that is more breathable than no material. Zippers are going to ventilate and be more breathable than any material can be. And so having a jacket with more pit zips and zipper options is going to be way better for you than trying to have some kind of space-age material that allows moisture to escape while keeping rain out. Look, here's the real deal. There is no amount of money that you can spend on outdoor layers that are going to keep you completely dry no matter what, okay? It's just not going to happen. Now, that's not to say that there is no absolutely perfect combination of outdoor weather and your personal body heat on a given hike that can possibly produce equilibrium. Of course, that's possible, but it is a very narrow slice of the spectrum that you are rarely going to hit. So, one of the best things to do when you are considering your layers is to utterly give up the idea that you are ever going to just go hiking down the trail feeling perfectly dry under all conditions. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't better and worse materials, but don't buy into the hype. No one has invented a material that is completely waterproof and completely breathable. It just doesn't exist. I've been talking so much, I'm not entirely sure where I am anymore. Now, when it comes to the lower layers, you have a couple of options, one being rain pants, which are pretty much exactly what you think they are. They're kind of a rain jacket for your legs. Now, when it comes to rain pants, I would strongly recommend at least 3/4, if not full length leg zips. If you are putting on or taking off rain pants, chances are the weather conditions are not favorable. You're probably already a bit wet, if not also muddy, snowy, whatever, and you are not going to want to have to take your shoes off and do the one-legged wobble trying to get a rain layer on over your pants. You're probably also not going to want to have to slide your wet or muddy shoes into the pants before you put them on. By having a full or 3/4 length leg zip, you can effectively open them up so that your foot can go right through the material without touching it, and then you simply zip everything up, and the pants are sealed. Now, the one thing about rain pants is that they're usually going to be the last thing you put on if you are in serious rain, because typically if rain is just falling straight down, you can get away with a jacket or a poncho and not really worry too much about your pants. For example, I've been out here for an hour or so. I'm drying off nicely, but you can see the pants are completely dry. So I typically don't worry about my legs until things are getting pretty darn serious. And in that case, I'll put the pants on, but they're kind of a pain. They take up a lot of space, it's extra weight, etc. So another option, in addition to or instead of rain pants, would be something like a rain kilt. It's basically just a piece of plastic that you wrap around your waist and it hangs down over your legs. Now, what I like about these is that they are completely ventilated, very easy to move around in, and they can be deployed and taken down extremely quickly. Further, rain kilts do not weigh very much at all, and they take up almost no space. You can literally just stick them in your pocket when you're done with them. However, a rain kilt isn't going to cut it if you are in really serious conditions, especially if it's super windy. So, again, you've got to kind of plan what you think is going to happen, but it's always good to have options. Some lightweight, waterproof gloves can be really nice. Even if you're not going to be in snow where you need a lot of insulation, it's just nice not to have your skin exposed, getting soaking wet and cold, and a thin waterproof layer can be helpful there. Now, when it comes to footwear, there's a lot of controversy about whether you should wear waterproof boots or shoes, or just let the moisture through and deal with it. Almost all of the backpackers and hikers that I have ever talked to have chosen not to go with waterproof shoes, typically because they say it takes so much longer to dry them out, and you're going to get them wet anyway. No matter how waterproof your shoe or boot is, if you have water spilling over the top of it from a creek crossing, or if rain is draining into it from your rain pants, you're still going to be wet, and it is thought that it is better to have shoes that are going to more quickly dry out than attempt to keep you dry and fail. One of the things I'm doing on this hike is I'm wearing trail runners with waterproof socks. And the reason I'm doing that is that I do prefer the lightweight feeling of trail runners. I like the mesh for its breathability, but of course, when I walk into muddy or wet trails, I don't really want my socks getting soaked. So I find that a toe sock base layer coupled with a waterproof kind of neoprene sock really makes for a pleasant experience, because I can just take my trail runners right through the middle of a soaked out trail like you're supposed to, and not have to worry about hiking with wet feet. Now, I know that one concern with waterproof socks is breathability and sweat, but I have found that when I couple waterproof socks with breathable mesh trail runners, they seem to cancel each other out. Plus, it is a lot easier to swap out your socks than it is to swap out shoes when you're on the trail. Now, I have two arguments for waterproof shoes. One of them is that in less than deadly conditions, you can stay a lot drier in waterproof shoes than you can without them. So, for example, if you're not having to deal with creek crossings and rain pouring into your shoes, just walking through wet grass can still get you soaked real fast. And that's not going to happen if you have a waterproof shoe on. My other reason is that in my own tests, I haven't actually seen waterproof shoes take that much longer to dry out. Now, obviously, they're going to take longer than a mesh shoe that can squelch out all of the water as you walk along. But as far as just hanging them up to dry, I didn't see very much difference. So, as with all other gear, you've got some pluses and negatives, and you're going to have to figure out what's going to work best for you on any given hike. I would definitely not recommend waterproof underwear. If you wouldn't mind, leave a comment below and tell me what your rainy hike loadout looks like. I'm always looking for new ideas. I'm always looking to better my kit so that I can enjoy the outdoors more and in more situations. If this video has helped you out, or you liked it for any reason, would you mind giving it a like and subscribe to Backcountry Pilgrim if you are into hiking, camping, backpacking, and the gear that goes with it. Until next time, I'm Doug. As always, thank you for watching.